Good evening and welcome to our August 14th, 2018 Ogden City Council and Redevelopment Agency meetings. This is the 6 p.m. Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present with the exceptions of Board Member Lopez, who has asked to be excused tonight. We'll turn the time to Vice Chair Nadolski for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chair. If you'll please rise and join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now if you'd please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. I should make an explanation. Some of us are uncharacteristically casual tonight. We came together to honor the back-to-school time of year, and so we all have some school colors of a school that's here in Ogden City. Councilmember Stevens and myself, we have to kind of hold the weight of the Ben Lomond High School group. We're a little outnumbered sometimes, but here we are. So, all right. The first item on our agenda tonight is the reports from administration, Continental Community Reinvestment Area.
Mr. Cooper will be presenting.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. Good evening. It's good to be with you again. I think we'll get this up here. So tonight's request is the adoption of Resolution 2018-9, which designates the Continental Community Reinvestment Area Survey Area. That area is essentially a 6-block area between Washington and Wall, 25th to 27th. The rationale behind this designation and the reason why we have chosen it to be an area of study at this point in time really comes from a couple of things. The first is the Quality Neighborhoods Initiative, which you're familiar with, adopted in 2015. It's a joint resolution establishing a strategy to create neighborhoods of choice in Ogden. And so that really is the rationale behind a lot of the things that we do. And then secondly, we've had a couple of open houses that were oriented to this specific area that was shown in the geographical boundary. One was held on November 16th of last year and another one held on January 10th of this year. And those open houses were meant to engage with the folks who live in this area, who have businesses in this area and the surrounding areas. And we get some feedback, both good, bad, and indifferent, and we take all of that feedback and we use it to shape the geographical boundary. We sometimes make revisions, sometimes we expand and contract based on those things. And then that really kind of sets the path forward in what we're trying to accomplish in this area. So those are the two major drivers behind why we've selected this. The other driver would be the opportunities that exist in this area. This is an area that's adjacent to historic 25th Street, and there's a few vacant buildings here. There's a few historically significant buildings. So there's lots of things that can be done in this area to make it more efficient, make it more walkable, make it more livable in terms of housing and those kind of things, bring additional businesses to the area. So we think it's a great opportunity in terms of investing and continuing the revitalization of downtown. As you're aware, this is a process, this is the first of a long process in establishing a community reinvestment area if that's the necessary thing to do. So tonight's request is the first step, adopting Resolution 2018-9, designated the survey area, and then that also triggers staff to put together a draft project area plan that would outline all of the activities and the objectives of what we would like to see happen here. So with that, I would recommend that you adopt Resolution 2018-9.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Cooper concerning this?
I do have a couple.
Yes, Councilmember Truberger.
I've had some questions from some residents that are wondering, is it possible for us to have too many of these areas in our city and impact our taxes at all?
That's a difficult question to answer without a big comprehensive discussion.
Oh, sure. I mean, just the brief answers.
But right now we manage a roughly 19. I think that's the number of RDAs on the books, and some of those RDAs date back to the 70s when the law was first initiated. So as a tool, I think they're necessary. So I think we're focused on using the tool in the most effective way, not necessarily the number. As they expire, we do tend to allow them to expire so that tax benefit through the investment of the period in which they existed then goes back to the taxing entities, and they kind of realize the fruits of that labor. But we are looking at adopting this one and others because it is an effective tool to bring about change that really can't happen without it. So I don't know if there's a magic number, but we are looking at ways to utilizing the tool in the most effective way possible.
Yeah, I mean, that was just my follow-up, is like, what happens in this area if we don't do this study or don't pursue it?
Well, generally, unless an object in motion stays in motion until it's disrupted, and if you look at this area over the past 4 decades, it generally has existed in its current condition. There's been little tweaks and changes here. And so we're looking at areas that are ripe for a movement that is beyond what's happened in its previous past. So this is one of those areas that we think if we just nudged it a little bit with some public assistance, then it would do something that it otherwise couldn't do by itself.
Brandon, also the RDA area, or the area that we're looking at, all the entities will still get the same property tax they're currently getting. So we draw a line, we freeze it, and they continue to get that. It's kind of the but for. If we don't do something, then does that never change? And our hope is by coming in and doing this RDA, CRA area, that we can make changes and increase the value substantially. So when it ends, then all the entities will get much more tax, but they'll all get the same tax they're getting now for the entire time.
That's a good point. Yep.
For clarifying.
Any other questions?
This process also helps 25th Street, which would access the back of the buildings and parking for 25th. Is this a basic element of this design concept?
Right. As I mentioned, one of the drivers for us in looking at this area is the support of historic 25th Street. I think it's unarguably the greatest asset we have in terms of our physical downtown. And so enhancing that in any way that we can with additional people, additional amenities, connectivity, those kind of things really preserves that amenity that is really unique to Ogden.
Councilmember White, did you have a comment?
I do. I have a question for you in the squiggly lines, excuse me. And oftentimes we draw these areas, and there's reasons why we put the squiggles, and there's reasons why we don't. And oftentimes we don't include areas where that are municipalities or government-owned or non-taxable entities. Mm-hmm. But you've included that within these boundaries. Can you just give a brief reason why you've done that?
Sure. So the big void at the bottom is the Weber Behavioral Health Center, and we see that being a sustainable facility. It's not going anywhere. There's no redevelopment that's going to happen. It's a government entity, so there's no tax base there. So that's why we've carved around that. But conversely, you'll notice that we have included the parking lot, the jail, and the court building of the municipal block. And as you look at this general area, there's a lot of surface parking, there's a lot of inefficient land use, and we see that that portion of the municipal block has some redevelopment opportunity that could enhance not only the government functions that we have here, but also the enhancement of the amphitheater, again, bringing more commercial and residential uses that support 25th Street and creating a venue that could be used in lots of different ways.
Any other questions for Brendan?
So you're looking at housing or business or a mix of both, or what's your plans for the future?
I think we'd analyze the use of all of the opportunities that could be there. So that includes housing, that includes commercial uses, retail, office. We're looking at hospitality options, those kind of things, event venues, anything that would be supportive of the mission of the redevelopment agency, and that is in character with the urban downtown that we're trying to facilitate.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, board members, look for a motion.
Chair Heyer, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-9 as presented.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, second by Board Member White, to adopt this resolution 2018-9. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Blair.
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka.
Aye.
Board Member Stevens.
Aye.
Board Member White.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. Look forward to what the survey results show. The next item on our agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on concerns or ideas on any topic. Anyone like to address the board? Seeing no movement. Comments from our executive director.
I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this. I know this has been the topic of many conversations. Brandon and Tom, I guess Tom just snuck out, but we appreciate what you put into it. Thank you.
And board members, any comments?
Chair Heyer, I just have a quick question, and I appreciate Mark Johnson with the follow-up, and I think that a lot of times people misunderstand how an RDA is developed and what the money is used for, and that, as Mr. Cooper said, that this really hasn't been, there's been decades of nothing that's happened here, and it's going to probably continue to be nothing going forward, and this is an impetus and a tool that we can have, including the people that you know, us, the school district, and the county will continue to get the same property tax value regardless into the future. So I think this is a great tool in our toolbox. So.
Yes, thank you. I would like to add probably also that there have been a few proposals of things to happen in this area, and they just haven't happened because of, for one thing or another. So it's evident to me that this does need to have some push, some nudge. So, any other comments? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Board Member Blair to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay. Just give us 1 second, and we'll get going on our special city council meeting. You ready to go? Well, welcome again then for our August 14th, 2018 Ogden City Special City Council meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, with the exceptions of Councilmember Lopez, who has asked to be excused tonight. The first item that we need to do tonight is approval of minutes of the joint session of April 3rd, 2018. There's a correction there on our agenda. Councilmember Blair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Heyer. I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate.
And then the joint session of April 17th, 2018. Councilmember Chaburka.
Yes, Chair, I've read those minutes and they're accurate to my recollection.
And finally, the regular meeting of April 17th, 2018. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct, and I make a motion that we adopt the minutes that have been presented this evening.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stevens, seconded by Councilmember Blair to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay. Next item on our agenda is reports from the Planning Commission. That is another correction on our agenda tonight. This is concerning the Nine Rails Creative District. And
Chair, we're going to have Sarah and Greg, and Sarah's going to go first, ladies first, I guess.
Great.
And there is a group in the middle that are here to back them up.
I see this group.
Kind of creative.
It's daunting. Welcome, Sarah.
Chair Heyer and council members, thank you for your consideration of the Nine Rails Creative District Master Plan this evening. This is a brief outline of the items that we'll be covering tonight. Just wanted to provide some context for the project, review the items that were recommended in the master plan, and then we'll also be discussing the recommendations of the Planning Commission. So the Creative District project has been undertaken by Ogden City and its partners with funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. The NEA grant was intended to fund community visioning and development of a master plan for a new creative district here in Ogden. The city contracted with IO Design Collaborative to draft the master plan document. Our initial goals for the project were to look at how we could use the arts to activate an area. We wanted to create a connection between downtown and East Central, provide more art in the public realm to engage the community, and encourage creatives to live and work in Ogden. Our original study area was generally bounded by 24th and 26th Streets from Grant to Madison. And this area was selected because we thought it was very important to creating that link between downtown and East Central, and also wanted to look at how we could extend the energy and vibrancy of historic 25th Street up into the neighborhood. We also found that this area provided a lot of opportunity to introduce new creative uses into the area. Community engagement has been critical to the development of this master plan. Starting in 2016, we had a series of informal stakeholder meetings and began a more formal engagement process in the spring of 2017. From some of our initial focus group sessions and community open house, we formed a steering committee, and that committee met monthly between September 2017 and June of 2018. The steering committee established a goal and objectives for the creative district and also guided development of the master plan document. A lot of our steering committee members are here tonight along with other stakeholders, and I just have to note that the creative community in Ogden is very passionate and engaged, and that has made a very big difference to this project. As part of our public outreach, we also had the fun job of doing some pilot projects in the creative district. With these projects, we basically wanted to test that concept of using the arts to activate an area and engage with the community around that. It was a more kind of informal setting to gauge the community's response and input to the things that we were doing in the creative district. Some of the notable projects here include the Rachel Pohl mural at 25th and Adams, which was funded by Weber Arts Council, Moments Festival, which was held in May 2017, and the new Art in Action Professional Development Series. So working with the steering committee, we established a goal for the creative district, and that goal is to create an epicenter for art and culture where the creative community lives, creates, shares, and teaches for the benefit of Ogden's artists, citizens, and visitors. And just a note here, when we talk about the creative community, we're defining that really broadly. So that may include fine artists like painters or sculptors, but it's also meant to encompass everything from video game designers to amateur furniture builders. So that's meant as a broad definition. The committee then developed a set of 5 objectives in support of the goal for the creative district. The first objective is to support creativity and collaboration in the district for the benefit of the broader community. Number 2 is to use placemaking to convey the creative identity of the district. Number 3 is to develop a place where community members can get connected with resources that will support their creative pursuits. Number 4 is to create a safe, accessible, welcoming, and economically sustainable area. And the final objective is to ensure that the district can change and evolve over time so that it doesn't become static. We'll move now into the recommendations of the master plan. This slide shows the name for the creative district. We undertook a small branding effort in conjunction with the master plan and worked with that group to develop the 9 Rails brand for the creative district. The name 9 Rails references Ogden's rail history. At one point there were 9 rail systems that converged in Ogden, and we had this historic slogan, "You can't get anywhere without coming to Ogden." And that's what we want to accomplish with the creative district. We want that to be a place where you feel like you need to be there to launch your creative pursuits. This slide also shows the boundaries for the creative district. You can see that we have a broader creative district boundary from 24th to 26th and from Grant to Madison. That's meant to provide connections to key nodes like 25th Street, the Junction, and Washington Boulevard, as well as up to the Jefferson Ave Historic District and East Central neighborhood. We also have a smaller creative district intensive area. That's the area outlined in blue on the map. And the intensive area is where we are proposing a new zoning district, and also where we would propose focusing the creative district funding, at least to start with. There are 4 categories of projects that are addressed in the recommendations section of the master plan document. We'll just take them one at a time. The first category is public spaces and projects. Recommendations in this category include public art and developing public spaces where creative programming can happen. So some examples for public art would be a new gateway art installation at 25th and Ogden. And for the public spaces, we've talked about projects such as a food truck hub, the redesign of Lester Park, and then 2 new public plazas within the creative district. The next category addresses streetscape improvements. One of the big focus areas for the creative district is to provide art in the public realm so that people can encounter it as they go about their daily routine, and they don't necessarily have to go seek it out at a gallery or a museum. So within the streetscape improvements, we want to make sure that there are places for public art to happen, which will also express the identity of the district. The streetscape improvements should also support multiple modes of travel and encourage redevelopment throughout the district. So examples of some of the improvements recommended in the master plan include wayfinding, street calming, lighting, which could include light-based art installations, street furnishings, which could include local design commissions, and green infrastructure. This is an example of one of the street types addressed in the master plan. This is the urban street type. So this is what you might see proposed for 25th Street between Washington Boulevard and Adams. So you can see in this concept design, there's an increased focus on the pedestrian. The space dedicated to the pedestrian takes up more of the public realm. The street width is somewhat reduced to provide for traffic calming. And within that larger pedestrian realm, there would be new landscaping, spaces for public art installations or performances to happen, and then also unique elements such as street furnishings and lighting. The third category of recommendations addresses development in the creative district, and the recommendations here are really focused on establishing a new zoning district that would provide the flexibility that's needed for creative uses to take place in the district. The recommendations support the types of uses that will allow creatives to live, work, exhibit, and perform in the district. Some examples of that would include live workspace, and maybe even some light industrial uses to allow for things like woodworking. This section of the master plan also provides some recommended design guidelines that would support making this district a very vibrant, walkable area while still respecting the existing context of the neighborhood. Just a note here, these are recommended guidelines, and they would be further refined and presented to council in the form of a new zoning ordinance a little bit further down the line. The final category addresses programs and activities for the district. The three previous categories include a lot of projects where the city would lead out, but for programs and activities, we'd really like to see a district association established. This could be similar to the historic 25th Street Business Association, and that association would provide a lot of guidance for what programs and activities are needed to really activate the creative district. The master plan document recommends focusing on programs and activities that connect creatives with resources, provide ownership opportunities for live and work space, and also support public art and arts programming that benefits the community. The master plan also includes a phasing plan that shows the order of priority for the proposed projects. In the short term, we'd like to see a lot of focus on projects and events that can happen fairly immediately to continue building momentum in the district and keep that area activated. Streetscape improvements for 25th Street, the redesign of Lester Park, and then also the creation of a new zoning district for the creative district intensive area. The Phase 2 plan focuses on new public spaces with plazas at Ogden Ave and Kiesel Ave, and streetscape improvements to the north-south streets in the district. And the final phase, Phase 3, addresses streetscape improvements on 24th and 26th, as well as some improvements to Porter Avenue, which was historically known as Butler Way. I'm sorry that table is so small. This table shows some potential funding sources. These are just proposed funding sources. Funding would need to be approved on a project-by-project basis, but we wanted to start looking at what funding could be applied to different projects proposed in the plan. Just generally, there are local funding sources that could be pursued, such as the city's public art program, the Adams Ave Community Reinvestment Area, and the city's capital improvements program. There are also several regional sources of funding, such as Weber County Ramp and transportation funds from WACOG. There are also, as we've been working on this project, we've learned that there are a lot of grants available at the national level that could support projects in the creative district. And then finally, we would continue to seek private investment in the district. Greg Montgomery is going to address the recommendations of the Planning Commission.
I think before I do that, one of the things why this is a joint presentation and Sarah doing most of the work is because Sarah did most of the work. She has been very involved throughout this whole process, and her and the steering committee have done a great job in taking this document and creating it in a realm that has so many different areas to go into. It's not just zoning, it's not just planning, but it has a lot of other aspects in it. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as you look at this master plan, it is one that gives you a vision and an idea of what can take place. So as the Planning Commission looked at this in terms of its placement then within the realm of the general plan and then what further actions would need to take place, it helps take the general plan and expand and give us more definition of what can happen in the downtown area. There's a general plan statement about having arts in the downtown. This takes, and what does that mean? It now gives you some ideas and visions of how that could take place and how it could take shape. And that's part of a master plan, is to be able to give you some further detail and vision, and then the implementation of it will take place as different things start to happen. So as the Planning Commission reviewed this, they reviewed it in light of all the things that had taken place in the workshops, the steering committee, all the efforts that had gone on, and added to those items their own thoughts and ideas. One of the questions that first came up as the discussion was, well, how does Oasis Park fit into this, Oasis Gardens? and the fact that there is a pavilion, there's opportunities, there's things that can take place there. So in their initial reaction, they looked at making a recommendation of including the Oasis Gardens into the district boundaries. They also noticed that there were assets that are within the district boundaries that really weren't mentioned in the plan, such as the Eccles Arts Center, how the old Methodist Church could be reused. If you've ever been in there, it's a great facility. I know in the past there's been some concerts and things take place in there, but a great facility, and added the comment of how those areas could also be included because they're already in the boundaries, and just to add what could happen there. Lester Park was one of those items the commission also said that because of the pedestrian connection from Lower or Washington Boulevard on 25th all the way up to Jefferson, Lester Park can be a continuation of that pedestrian movement, and with its improvements, they recommend that be moved up in the time schedule because it's a very visible section of that center of the Arts District. And adding language to, as Sarah talked about, the quick wins, which already have been taking place with the crosswalk and the median art that has taken place on 25th and Adams. And then the concern that in the document itself, it gave some general design standards, again, knowing that these are suggestions, these are not ordinance, these are not saying how the ordinance will be drafted, but also the context of existing facilities also need to be looked at, because you still have the Forest Service building, the old Weber Gym, those type of things that are also part and parcel of what the makeup of that street is. So the Planning Commission had made these recommendations to make corrections that would address this. In our work session, we talked about those thoughts and ideas. And one of the things that we had concluded after that work session would be to not make any additions or revisions regarding the Oasis Gardens, to leave that out, leave the boundaries as they're being proposed. But the other items in the document that you have been added in terms of language into the document. One of the things that we looked at is then what is the city's roles on different things. Phasing and timeline, the question was, do we, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, or do we just say here's immediate and midterm and long-range goals of what we want to see happen? Also, making clear the design standards for streetscapes and creative districts, that they will be things that will be done as we make then the necessary amendments to both the East Central Community Plan and the CBD plan. And then as we get into work of creating actual, after those amendments take place, actual language that can help implement certain phases of the creative Nine Rails district plan by then setting some standards and some expectations. We're already, in some ways, working on the streetscape design standards as we speak because of timing of certain things. We want to make sure that we can meet the objectives of that Nine Rails plan. And then also those relationships, as I mentioned, how does this work with East Central? What are the other revisions we make? Those are things that we'll be working towards, and as you look at this item tonight, and if you give it a favorable vote, those will be then the steps we'll start to proceed in next of the amendments to the plans of need and the zoning creations. So the Planning Commission, as they reviewed this, had recommended approval of the Nine Rails master plan because they felt it was consistent with the general plan in terms of things that have developed, consistent with the arts plan that was developed a few years ago and now zeroes in onto a certain area where a high impact could be seen because of something like the Nine Rails District.
Are there any questions for either Sarah or Greg?
I have one. There has been comment on the vastness of the district. Do you believe the size is correct, or is it too large?
No, I don't think it's too large. When you look at it, the things that can take place and the need to make people move and go through things, you need more than just one block. You need to have it And you need to have those little fringe areas to explore and be able to create things and be able to have a sense of place. So I don't think that is a problem at all with this.
I had a question concerning the zoning. You as the zoning guru of I think the world, could you explain to me perhaps what the gives and takes of that are? This seems like it will divide our CBDI zone, and how does that all function? How does it work?
I think on the most part with the CBDI, we're really talking about the fringe areas. You're off of Washington. You've got your Washington Main Street. We're talking about what can happen in those back areas, whether it be where was White City Bowl and those type of things, or what can happen along that 25th Street going up the hill and over. You know, the CBDI and the CBD zone went back and forth. It's always, well, we'll do CBD because of design standards. And then as we went too far into more residential areas, well, let's pull the CBD back. And then East Central came in, and the East Central looked at preserving the historic character that is found in the Central Bench District. One of the things as we look at the Nine Rails District is the ability to take vacant spaces or even take some areas that may not be, quote, premier residential in terms of the design and say something can be done there to, again, signal that this is an area for exploration, this is an area for innovation. And the East Central standards really are saying stay as a Victorian, stay as Foursquare, whereas some of the things that are needed to make this work aren't those type of buildings. And so in some of the vacant lands, it's creating something that will then generate in people's minds, there's something different in this area, something I want to explore. And so those standards will change to create that ability to have that happen.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Greg?
I have a quick question, I guess. You know, we talk a lot about the creative district and the bringing creative people into our city. What's the importance of that as it plays out, or the role to economic development?
One of the things that the people look for as they look at cities to live in is there a variety of things, and is there a culture that says, I am welcome, and the arts do that. The arts create that ability to say, this is a place I want to be involved with because there are activities, there's things going on, there's a variety of thoughts and ideas. And that becomes important as people look for locations, especially businesses, of what, not only what do you have to offer for my business, but what can my employees do after work? And I think those become important parts of that whole in terms of economic development and of city making.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate the time you spent, and Sarah, thanks for all the time that you've put forward too. We would like to receive public input on this proposal. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council? There's a lot of looking around.
Right in the middle. Right in the middle. You have to jump over that.
Just give us your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Sorry, I can't stay seated. So Jake McIntyre, 2218 Adams Avenue. So first off, thank you for having us here again this evening to now present the Nine Rails Creative District. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a resident in East Central, obviously. I also run a creative agency here in town that'll be soon based in the Nine Rails Creative District at the Argo House at 529 25th Street, and an art instructor at Weber State University and member of the Ogden City Arts Advisory Committee. And I just want to say thank you for all of your involvement and engagement in this effort, but also arts and culture as it has been for the last few years with the master plan, and so many other things that have come up. So many of you have been, volunteers in the projects that have been put on and attending the different events that go on. I see you out there, so thank you. And then I just want to address, I think, a little bit about why this project matters so much. I think we all know that the arts add value to the community. But I think in so many ways, it's a critical aspect of what we have in Ogden. It unifies us as a people. It unifies us as cultures. In this case, it unifies us geographically. I think this is such a unique opportunity to really finally create a bridge between downtown and East Central. Washington Boulevard is such an incredible moat to cross, and this project really intentionally takes that head on in, I think, a pretty innovative way. So additionally, arts and culture is going to become an increasingly critical part of our economy as we move forward. Creativity is undoubtedly one of our most valuable assets as humanity, and I think the fact that Ogden is really at the forefront locally of pushing forward arts and culture is a big thing. This will start to diversify our economy. It'll add to our tourism base. This Nine Rails Creative District is going to do a lot for us, not only as locals, but us as a community as a whole. So I just ask that you put thoughtful consideration into the adoption of this plan, but really thank you for your time tonight and ongoing over the last few years as we've been talking about this. So, thanks.
Thanks, Jake. Anyone else?
Hi there, my name is Danielle Beninelli, 5673 Aspen Court. I'm a South Ogden resident, but I'm still in Weber County. I'm on the steering committee, which is awesome. I'm the vice president of the Egyptian Theater Foundation, so we're excited about this. But more importantly, I'm here to represent the Utah Cultural Alliance. I serve on that board. So Nine Rails is not just about Ogden. I mean, the word is out. People are excited about it. The Utah Cultural Alliance, we're the statewide voice of arts and humanities, and we fully support Nine Rails. I mean, Utahns love culture. Utah is the #1 state in the entire country for live participants at events, which is amazing. According to a recent study with the Economic Development Corporation of Utah, Utah businesses cite a vibrant arts and entertainment scene is the #1 factor for considering where to locate their business. Awesome. Statewide, the creative industries employ 79,000 Utahns. Weber County's creative industries employ about 3,700, so it's about 4.6% of the statewide total. The Nine Rails project can elevate the sector for jobs, boost Ogden's contribution to the creative and statewide economy, as well as open potential doors for new business and industry development. The mission of the Utah Cultural Alliance is to empower and strengthen communities by building cultural awareness, and we feel the Nine Rails Creative District and its overall goals as stated in the master plan will provide positive impact not only to Ogden and Weber County, but to the state of Utah in general. So thanks for your time and consider it.
Thanks, Danielle. Your excitement is contagious. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
If I could just add, we know some great realtors too, so if you need some help.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. I thought we'd better put out the timeline of what the council has participated in this, just for the public who may be viewing us on the internet. We received this on the 24th of April with the administrative transmittal and a request for a review of this Creative District Master Plan. On the 29th, we had an initial presentation about the proposal during a council work session. July 17th, that was continued with a follow-up, and a lot more detail was given at that July 17th work session, which brings us to today. This is the council consideration of the Creative District Master Plan with a minor change. So the council has been quite involved in this since it's been presented, and we've had a lot to do with it. This is not new to us. So with that, I'll look for any comments that the council might have or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-10 adopting the Nine Rails Creative Master Plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Stevens, seconded by Vice Chair Nadolski, to adopt the 2018-10 resolution. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. Thank you very much, all of those who have put forth effort on that. We appreciate all your efforts.
Before they run off, can we do council comment?
Yeah,
Yes, let's do. Let's have some comments.
Thanks. Even though I know they're really excited to stick around for our conversation about our MOU.
We want to know
Hold on.
about BRT, I'm sure.
That's right.
Do you mind if I lead out?
No, please do.
So I'm not gonna pretend that if I run into you guys on a Friday night staring at a piece of art that I'm gonna know what I'm talking about. I think I'm looking at half of you guys, and half of you know me quite well, and you know what I know and what I don't know. So I'm not going to pretend to know what I don't know. But what I do know, I know people, and I know you guys, and I know what makes a difference in the community, and I know that every one of you guys makes a big difference in this community. Ever since I got in this job, I've gotten to know arts a lot better. And I can't say that before this position I understood arts, but I can say now, because of the work that you guys do, that I understand arts a lot better. And I just want to say thanks for that. I want to say, and I wish that I wish you could have seen the faces of your peers behind you as you were presenting. They were really cheering you on through their faces. They were really like, you know, oh yeah, she nailed it. You know, they're so engaged in your presentation, in your performance, in your collective good, you know, because all of you have played a part in what this was today. And so I am so happy to see this come before us today. I didn't have to ask questions. I knew what I wanted to do tonight because I know what you guys want to do. And I'm always going to support what you guys want to do because you guys want to make a difference here. And that's what the arts do. That's what you do. And I will support what you guys do every single time. So whatever you guys want to do, please keep doing it. Keep bringing it here. I love it. I can't get enough of it. For those reasons, I am a supporter of the arts. I don't know art the way you do, but I love it the way you do. And I'll just say that thank you to Amy for all the work that you did on this proposal. I think a lot of people think that because we're a council and you're an administration, that we're on this side of the dais and you're on that side of the dais, that we have to be in opposition. It's not that way. It doesn't have to be that way. That we received a proposal, we saw things that we wanted to fix or we wanted to clean up. That's what we did. We reached to the other side through our staff, through your staff, through the work group, and we made something better. And I'm just really proud of the way everybody worked together, and I just want to thank Amy and Glenn, our staff, the administration staff, the work group. This is just the way things come together in a community, and this is the way communities get better. So thanks for all of that. Keep doing it, because this is the way we do it.
Your excitement is contagious too. Any other comments from
Chair Heyer, can I just say a few things? I think one of the things that is always interesting around the budget time is there's always somebody that comes up and says, I don't care about the arts, or I don't care about events, or I don't care about this. But this district is more than that. It's more than events. It's more than, it's the development of housing potentially. It's the development of, you know, I think you called it flexible spaces. And so I think people don't understand that it's more than just something to just look at and wonder about. And so I think that's one of the reasons, other than all of his excitement, one of the other reasons why I support this. So I just wanted you to know that we realize that it's more than just, you know, a statue or something outside, even though it could be just that too.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate the bringing this forward. Sometimes I get involved with art, but I think Jay nailed it on where he says art adds value and brings us together. And I think exactly that's what the arts will do. There's many facets of art. If you take art, the gamut of art is never ending. It gives the opportunity of everyone to show and creative minds to show their abilities and that we can enjoy their opportunities. The other aspect is I think this is an element that will attract people to our city, tourism. They'll come to Ogden because we have something unique and special here, and also it adds quality of life. You can't have a price tag on what the arts adds to a community. There's no value or price there that would equate to the value of life that we all enjoy. It impacts communities. As you look at the different intersections, if our intersections were becoming an element of art, people would come here and take a look at them and see what it looks like. It enhances safety and accessibility, and I think those are the elements that art brings to us. My hat goes off to every one of you. The Twilight series is just an element of showing the interest that we have in our community and outside our community of the element of art. And so I applaud you and I thank you for bringing this forward.
Any other comments?
Sure, I have a few things. You passed it to me, I'll take it. Like others on the council, there's a few things that I do know about art. Number one is I don't understand it very well. I know what I like, but yeah, there are classes. But I know that I am definitely a long ways away from an art expert or an art enthusiast. But the other thing I do know about art is I'm glad we have it in our city. When I first got on the council, like Councilmember Nadolski, I didn't understand the impact art had or the benefit that it provided to our city. And since I've been on the council and got to see the positive impacts and the many reaching impacts that it has on a city and on a community, I'm glad we have it. I'm glad we have it in more abundance than other communities, and I'm glad that we get to experience that here, and I'm glad that my family gets to experience that other families and other communities don't. So I am thankful for that. Another thing that I do know is I know that it makes our city unique, and I'm happy about that. I know that people come here for that, and I'm appreciative of that, not because of the work I do, because I don't do much with art, but I'm thankful for all the work that you all do to provide art and provide culture for our citizens and for our city, so that not only my family but others can come here and experience it. I remember when I first got on the council, a couple of council members tried to teach me the importance of what art can do to a community. And those words have never been more true than they are tonight. And I'm thankful that people before me took me aside and educated me on that. And I'm happy to learn more and like Councilmember Nadolski to help and support you in your efforts. And I thank you for all that you do for our city.
Okay, I'm up, Brian.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do have something to say, surprisingly enough. Well, I was kind of waiting it out because I think I'm the only resident that's up here that lives in the Nine Rails district. So I just really wanted to tell you how much I support your work and appreciate it very much. I think that there's already a visible impact because I live there in the neighborhood. I can see it. Many more pedestrians, lots of construction going on, lots of wonderful things happening. The energy is definitely a lot different and more vibrant in that area. I also just want to really applaud you, not only on our internal kind of structures and how the process came about, but just on the efforts that you made to engage the community, not only in talking and open meetings and things like that, but in the first art projects. Just making art accessible to all. Just because you live in the neighborhood or happen to walk by, it's accessible to you. You don't have to walk into a fancy museum, which I love to do, or walk into a special place to do those things. But I just appreciate that so much. I think that's a huge impact. So I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I guess now's a good time for me to say that we are often kindred spirits. My day job is, jewelry designer and goldsmith, and I got my start in that field of work in the 7th grade from a a loving art teacher who was a mentor to me. I had never considered it prior to that. I thought, you know, you had to get a real job. That, you know, I don't know what a real job is, but I'm still waiting to find out, I guess. But it's been very fulfilling to me to make my career with artistic types of work, and so I appreciate this very much. I can't draw a picture worth a darn, but I can sculpt something. So, you know, it takes all kinds, and I appreciate the way this district has accommodated lots and lots of different avenues of art. That's really important, and so this is very exciting. And I, like Councilmember Blair, am excited that it is another unique element of a great city. It's something that makes Ogden stand out and makes it a great place to be, to visit, to live. And I thank you for all of the work that you've put forward. Thank you again. Okay, now I know you're excited to hear about the BRT, which is up next.
Going to run through the 9 Rails district.
We do. So the next item on our agenda is the Utah Transit Authority Bus Rapid Transit Project. We have some folks here to help us tonight.
Chair, we're going to start with Jay, and then Hal Johnson will be here to speak also. I just want to point out that Eddie Cummings is here. Eddie is UTA's equivalent of King of the North, and he usually is very quiet in the meetings, but he does a great job, and we really appreciate Eddie. It's nice to have you here.
Chair Heyer, Member of Council, Mayor Caldwell, Mr. Johnson, thank you for letting us be here tonight to discuss this. And Vice Chair, I want to take point that this is going to be a very exciting discussion on our MOU. As you know, we have spent considerable time and effort in recent years working on this project, and UTA has worked with Ogden City and our other community partners to bring this project along in steps. We started at the basics of just getting this on the radar of our citizens as a possibility for future developments. And as we worked through that, then we moved into whether it's what mode it's going to be, what route it's going to be. And as soon as we got through that Hal brought us along slowly and patiently, we kept moving forward. And now we're to a point where an MOU is required to allow UTA and Ogden City and our other community partners to request federal funding for a project this size. And this project must go forward with federal funding because of the enormity of the project itself. And so here tonight, our project manager, Hal Johnson's here to give you more detail on that. And if you have any questions at the end, either one of us can answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. Also wanted to introduce Mary DiLoretto from UTA. She's here as well tonight. So, just wanted to maybe build a little bit on what Jay was mentioning with the Ogden BRT project. We have made great strides over the last few years to be able to advance this project. UTA recently submitted our request to enter project development, which is our next milestone in receiving federal funding. When we sent it in, we attached the MOU and said, hey, we've got one more signature coming. And that was really well received by FTA. They were very impressed with the project that we've been able to put it together, been able to identify funding for the project development work, which is basically the engineering part of the project as well as construction. We've been able to identify funding for right-of-way, and so we're very close to being able to fund the overall project. And so the MOU shows project readiness to FTA, shows that we are in a good position to compete for federal funds. So come a long way over the last, I think I've been working on it with you guys for the last 5 years. So really happy to be to this point, and this is a stepping stone to get into a project development, which is essentially the design part of the project, and seek our last piece of federal funding. So the MOU identifies all the other project partners, so at UTA, Wasatch Front, UDOT, McCady Hospital, Ogden City, and Weber County. So it's not easy to actually get that many people to sign the same document. So I've been working at this for a while, and you guys are my last signature on the document. The MOU identifies some funding from Ogden, as well as talks about continuing to work on zoning and those kind of things in the future as we work to build the project together. But made great progress, and was going to mention Mayor Caldwell and a small group are going to Washington in a few weeks to give an update to the administration. And the way our federal partners are broken out, they have a regional office and a federal office. So Mary and a couple others, we recently met with the regional office. We're really well received. They like the project there. We're impressed with the ridership, impressed with the markets we're trying to serve. So it's a good project, and so they recognize that. So I think this is a big milestone for things to move forward with transit in Weber County. So any specific questions on the MOU? Or
any questions for Mr. Johnson?
What is Ogden's share of this?
Ogden will have a couple pieces. There's some funding for roadway improvements on 23rd and 25th Street that we're going to use as local match, and I think it's $100,000 or so in cash contribution to the design of the project. So we've been able to, and I believe those elements of the roadway funding, Jay can probably talk to that in a little bit more detail, are funded through some WACOG funds and existing funding that the city's committed to roadway improvements.
Mayor, is that in our budget, that funding?
Yes, it will be coming in. We have to commit to the 25th Street and 23rd improvements, but the project, if approved by the FTA, won't begin until 2020. So approving the dollars for those two projects will be coming to you. They haven't been approved yet. They'll be in the CIP plan, but it doesn't make sense to approve them. We can't start them until the project's approved, because then the money won't count as match if we start early.
All those other local matches have been approved officially, though.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Does Eddie want to come up just because he's here? Came a long way, you might as well come on up.
I'm Eddie Cummins, the Regional General Manager of the Mount Ogden Business Unit. Not necessarily the King of the North, but I like that title. I would just say that I really do think this is a good project. This has been a long time coming. I've been in this position for about 5 years. We've been working on it since I've been here. And I think if I get the history lesson, it's been going on probably 10 years, right? Maybe 11. So it goes a long way. There's been a lot of work done in this, but it's very interesting as I go around and I talk to people about this. There's a lot of excitement around it. So I encourage you to take a good hard look at it, and we're excited to get this final piece put together. So thank you.
Hey, before you go.
Yes, sir.
So just a comment, don't worry, not a question. There have been times where I've had UTA-related questions, really logistical questions from constituents, and you have helped facilitate answers. Just want to say thanks for that.
Okay,
You've always chimed in, been really helpful.
Yeah.
So really appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem. Anytime there's questions, you get questions from the public, please feel free to reach out to me. Mark knows how to get a hold of me.
The comment that I have is, if you look at the track record of UTA, especially in Salt Lake and the other counties around, is that once they get a hold of a project, it's successful. And I think that is large volumes back in Washington, D.C., because when UTA comes in and says, we've got a project, they listen because of the successful rate of UTA, and we're pleased to have you being part of this program. But that's their track record. Their track record shows that once the project is going, they will complete it and be successful.
That's hats off to our great capital team. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Yep,
appreciate that. Okay. Look for a motion.
Chair Heyer, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-11.
I second it.
Have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember Stevens to adopt resolution 2018-11. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes also.
Chair, before you leave tonight, they're hoping to get your autograph on the MOU.
I will be happy to.
So they can send it on to Washington.
This has been something that started when I was a freshman council member going to Portland. So we started this whole project. It's been kind of a lot of fun to go through this process to this point. Looking forward to getting on the actual BRT and taking it someplace. That's right. Okay, next item is council member compensation. We have Ms. Janine Eller-Smith to present to us. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Heyer, council members. As you know, we made some changes in the FY19 budget to council member salaries and benefits. And so I just want to review those because what's before you is a proposal to just modify the city code to align with the changes that you've already adopted in the budget. Just as a matter of a little bit of history, actually, I've been in the council office since about 2009, and we were talking about council benefits back then. We'd started looking at benchmarking for council member salaries, just like we do for regular employee salaries, and found out that at that point, council member salaries were very low compared to the cities that we benchmark against. In 2015, we continued that benchmarking process. I should say in 2012, even though they were low, there was a discussion about providing benefits to council members, and council members just decided at that time it wasn't the right time to do that. And so we just left the situation as where you just received a salary and a small contribution to a 401k. In 2015, we also went through the benchmarking process, and that's what these numbers on the screen reflect. And you can see the city average, all of the other cities, Murray, Provo, Salt Lake, Sandy, all provide council benefits to their council members. And so that brings their total compensation, which is what TCV stands for, total compensation value, up to an average of almost $36,000 a year per council member. That's the base salary. And in Ogden, again, we weren't at that time decided not to provide benefits, and so you were significantly lower than the other cities. We did look at providing council member benefits at that time. The HR department estimated it cost $115,000 a year to provide council benefits, and so council members just decided, even though they were $20,000 below the total compensation packages for other councils in our benchmarking group, the council just determined to increase the base pay each year at a slightly higher rate than other employees until we got to the benchmark, which was like $35,000. And I think I calculated that would take about 20 years. And that's just assuming that there wasn't any other increase to the other cities that we benchmark. So 2017, the issue came up again. Council members decided it wasn't the right time. In 2018, I approached administration and said, look, I know I've polled all the council members. I know that not all council members are interested in receiving benefits through the city. They have them available through their day jobs. And I said, so let's not look at what it would cost to provide benefits to the whole council. Let's just look at what it would cost to provide benefits to those council members that need or would like to take them. And so the city's benefits per employee are close to $16,000 a year that it costs the city. And so that brings by providing those benefits to council member available, that brings the total compensation up to almost $38,000. Still a little bit lower than the average for the other cities that we benchmark against. So the amendment to the ordinance that's before you amends Municipal Code Section 2-3-6 in 3 ways. It adjusts the base pay to the FY19 rate, which you adopted in the salary schedules. It changes the differential calculation for chair and vice chair. In 2010, I think, there was sort of an arbitrary decision to pay the vice chair $1,000 more than the base pay, and the vice chair $2,000 more. And that just continued throughout the years, just $1,000 for vice chair, $2,000 for chair. And what was happening as the base pay was increasing, sort of that differential was shrinking because even the percentage was shrinking. And so what we've done now is just go to, this changes to calculate that base pay on a percentage basis, 6% of base pay and 12% of base pay. And the reason we recommended 6 and 12 is because that gives you, at least for FY19, that $1,000 difference and that $2,000 difference for the chair and vice chair. And then it does provide for health and other regular employee benefits for council members. Because not all council members opted to take those, that cost in the budget was about $70,000. So that is the proposal, and that's what the amendments to the ordinance are. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Well, this is just making the ordinance fit what we already approved with the budget. Right. Any other questions for Ms. Ellerschmidt?
No, I just think it's interesting how, like you said, other cities are also increasing as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll look for a motion.
Chair, I'll propose a motion, I'll provide a motion to propose ordinance 2018-26, amending section 236.
Second.
To adopt it, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Choberka, seconded by Councilmember White to adopt ordinance 2018-26. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Choberka?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Is there any takers? All right. Seeing no movement, comments from the mayor.
I do have a couple of quick thoughts. I appreciate that a couple of you are still here. Everybody else bailed. But as I look at what actually happens in the city, I appreciated Vice Chair Nadolski's comments. But I think of groups like the Ogden Trails Network and Weaver Pathways and the Arts Group and Ogden Downtown Alliance and the Gulf Foundation and the Diversity Commission, those business owners that were pioneers on historic 25th Street. They're the ones that really actually get things done. And it reminds me of a quote that I've used with a lot of those groups before, and it's from Margaret Mead. Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. And I completely agree with that, and my hat's off to you all, and I hope you'll pass along my gratitude for everything that you guys do. I've been on both sides of it. I've shared a couple of notes with some of you before that it's way more fun to be schlepping barricades and really dealing with joyful environments and everything else, setting up and tearing down, having people have this great experience, than it is talking about some of the details and minutiae it takes to get that happened and being in that kind of a structured environment. But we do appreciate everything that you guys do, and you are changing your world. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Council members, any comments?
I have a quick one.
Yes.
So I want to just applaud everyone for wearing their respective colors tonight. I didn't think the Nebraska red would go over so well tonight, although Janine wore her BYU blue. I just want to say that I'm representing St. Joe's High School tonight. I don't know if you guys know how beautiful setting that is. I got an opportunity to walk around with the principal this morning and talk to him about how many students go there and just it. You know, we think of private schools in our city as maybe a different makeup, but they have a very similar makeup to our city. And I just think, as far as they're doing a great job, and I don't even know how to say this word, matriculated, but many of those students that graduate go on to a four-year college, and hopefully we get them back. So many of them at Weber State and local schools.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I would just like to thank everyone that had a part in the Wat Masaka dedication today. It was a great event. It was well attended, very well attended, and I think it's long overdue to tell his story and to have our residents know exactly who he is and what exactly he did in his life. So I just think, I know a lot of work went into it, and I appreciate all those that put in the time and the effort. So thank you.
You did a good job emceeing. Yeah, you know, your excitement was good. It showed. I think you added a lot to that event. Thank you for doing that. You did a great job. Any other comments?
I liked it when he mentioned that when he looked up to the north, he saw Mount Ben Lomond. And
that comment too.
I think if you look up there, occasionally you'll see plaids going right up to the peak there.
And you'll hear bagpipes in the
That's
background.
right. You will do that.
Well, I wanted to make one comment on my excitement to applaud the Nine Rails District. I forgot, I actually also wanted to say how much I really appreciate the city and the administration and the council for investing in our city in that way, to really be so thoughtful and to help to support that effort. I think it's really, really important, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
By Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember Blair to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you all. Appreciate those of you who are still here that came.